Welcome back to BLOCKTV. I'm Ron Friedman, and it's time for Crypto Crunch. Today we're joined from Helsinki by finance magnates Rachel McIntosh. Hey Rachel, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine, Ron. How about yourself?
Okay, busy week for us blockchain and digital asset reporters. We asked you to highlight your top stories from the week, and you sent them to us, and we're going to get started with the latest about wash trading. Take it away.
Yeah, so basically, the Blockchain Transparency Institute came out with a report earlier this week saying that wash trading is down in the space by 35% year to date, which is a notable, that's not insignificant. That's quite a big decline.
Yes.
However, that means that more than half of the wash trading that is in the space is persisting, even though now it's something that everybody knows about. 6 months ago, before this Bitwise report came out, it was, lots of people who are kind of like behind the scenes or the really technical crypto people knew it was obvious to them that wash trading was a problem within the space. But for people who are just sort of, maybe a little bit more casual,
Right.
this was not a.
Yeah, I know. I mean, when that first report came out, and it came kind of on the heels of some other incriminating reports about bad practices by exchanges. 90% of trading is, how can you even trust anything that you're reading? How, all the data is skewed. So now we're saying, all right, yes, there's a lot, but a lot less. And then, at the time when Bitwise's report came out, it kind of divided up the exchange into these two tiers, right? You have the whitelist, in which you have the credible exchanges, and then the blacklist, which is the majority. Is this new report by BTI? Is that is that still the case, or are we still a matter of, all right, there's the legit players and black hats, so to speak?
A bit. So one of the things that Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao said, and Binance was one of the exchanges that was,
on the whitelist, yeah,
wash trading, but there was still wash trading that was happening on that exchange. And he came out and said in an interview that, this is not such an easy problem to solve, basically because it's like, if there's two traders and, they're not on paper, they're not connected to each other in any way. But if they're sending a lot of transactions to and from each other, like in rapid succession, it's like, is that wash trading? Maybe. Right. Is it not wash trading? It's kind of hard to know. It's hard to identify this problem in some cases. And it's hard to fight this problem as such. But that's one kind of wash trading. Let's say that's the kind of wash trading that is executed by traders on exchanges and not by the exchanges themselves.
Right.
So still some exchanges, particularly smaller exchanges that are, established in jurisdictions that perhaps are not very well regulated, that use wash trading or that pump up their numbers to artificially say that they have, a certain amount of volume in order to attract new users and in order to attract new coins who are looking for places to list themselves. Right. So that's still a big problem. So we still do kind of have this like whitelist and blacklist thing going on, but there are more exchanges who have made a point of saying, look, we're really trying hard to fight this. There's the BTI Verify program. There are other platforms that are reporting real volume or
and if we're talking about maybe the most popular CoinMarketCap, and they added their kind of reported versus actual trading volumes. The understanding from this report is that it's partly on the way to clearing things up.
Yeah, so CoinMarketCap, after they were criticized after this Bitwise report came out, basically being a part of the problem, everybody, the New York Times relies on data from CoinMarketCap. It's something that everybody inside and outside of the space uses to kind of keep an eye on things. But, CoinMarketCap, knowingly or unknowingly, was unfortunately reporting the fake volume of these cryptocurrency exchanges. Like And this Bitwise report came out. They said, look, we're looking into this. We're somewhat aware of this, and we're going to make changes. And please take us back, baby. Like, we love you so much. We're going to do a better job. But they really haven't seemed to be living up their promises. I mean, now there's this quote unquote adjusted volume, column on their exchange volume website that says, this is what we think it actually is. But there still isn't enough being done, just simply because of the fact that they are still the most popular market data website in the space. Like, lots of people rely on them, and therefore we should at least be flagged, it should be very obvious to anyone looking at the site that, this exchange has been flagged for big volume. This exchange has.
And that's not the case at the moment. All right, let's move on to your next story because it's closely related. BTI alleges OKX of orchestrating an attack amid wash trading report. So on the heels of the BTI report, they're being hacked now.
Yeah, this is kind of wild. So this report came out and named a few exchanges, OKX, one of them, as still having issues with wash trading, and in particular, well, let me back up for a second here. So after this report came out, there was this article on Cointelegraph with OKX saying, this is completely wrong. BTI is just trashing us. And at the same time, around the same time that article came out, BTI's website started experiencing a distributed denial of service attack, which means that tons of bots going on there and accessing the website and overloading it, basically making it impossible. And it's still experiencing this, 48 hours later. So basically BTI came out on Twitter and said, because of the timing of these two things, with the Cointelegraph article about OKX and, this DDoS attack happening at the same time, they accused OKX of being behind this attack. But interestingly, before this attack started, shortly before this started, after OKX started saying, hey, this is BS, whatever, BTI changed the reporting of OKX on their site. So originally it said that I believe 90% of the trading on OKX was wash trading, and then it was changed to 73%, which is still a pretty high percentage.
So is that giving into the terrorists? That
could definitely be what it is. But either way, there could, of course, be no connection between this attack, but the timing is particularly strange. And BTI has also said that they've tried to, work with the upper management of OKX in order to sort of stop some of this wash trading from happening, and that there hasn't been a lot of communication there. So
it could also be somebody acting in the perceived interest of OKX without being related to OKX. I mean, obviously we don't know, but yeah, the timing is a bit suspect there. All right, and last one for today. This is the FATF guidelines caused waves. I guess it was 2 or 3 months ago, and had people panicking that this might be the end of exchanges or privacy on exchanges. But where there's a problem, there's a solution, and some companies are trying to help out.
Yeah, exactly. My dad, he always tells this story about how, during the gold rush in California a couple hundred years ago, maybe less than a couple hundred years ago, the people who really profited were the people who sold the shovels to the miners. And that's kind of what this situation is here. So we've got these FATF guidelines that have come out. We've got thousands of cryptocurrency exchanges all over the world who basically need to comply or else be blacklisted by the FATF, which is
and face crackdowns, possibly by their governments and their jurisdictions.
Also, yeah, exactly. Thank you for bringing that point up. So basically, a number of companies have seen this as an opportunity. The FATF has made these demands, without saying how they should be met. And these companies are, like, hey, maybe we could make this solution. We could create a compliance solution that could be adopted by the entire entire industry potentially, depending on how we time this. So in particular, if there's a particular company that can manage to create a workable solution first and get that workable solution into some of the world's largest exchanges, for example, Binance, who would be other large exchanges, then other cryptocurrency exchanges could potentially basically be forced to fall in line and say, oh, that's the one that those big guys are using. In order for us to also be compliant, we have to be interoperable. And because we have to be interoperable, we have to also adopt this same exact solution. Right. So there's a potential to make a lot of money here, or at the very least get a lot of exposure. So there's a few companies that have come forward in particular and are working ahead of the crowd, let's say, to get their solutions on the level. CoolBitX is one of them. We've also got CipherTrace and Netkey and several other ones that are working towards this. And to their credit, most of these companies are creating exchanges creating solutions that are interoperable. So they could, they're like a protocol basically that could be, could fit into a solution that's created by another company in another market, which makes sense because, what makes sense in an American market with English-speaking exchange operators wouldn't necessarily make sense in a Japanese with Japanese-speaking exchange operators. So there is sort of a need to create solutions that fit different populations, different demographics.
Excellent. So we're talking about solution. Do we know how far out there from releasing final products? Is this something that we can see in the next month, or is this going to take a long time to develop?
Well, yeah, it sort of depends. We've also got Global Digital Finance, this London-based trade group that's an organization for cryptocurrency exchanges and other virtual asset service providers. The chair of their FATF compliance division has created basically a governance structure, not a technical solution, a governance that would decide the standards for how this is going to work. So even including things like date, for example, like, the American system put before the day and the rest of the world puts the day before the month. So that could potentially create a lot of confusion. So there are these standards that need to be adopted. Of course, the FATF's guideline or deadline for compliance is January of 2020. So something that isn't, we're not right on the edge of this yet, but we're getting to the point where exchanges are going to have to figure something out quickly. And we have to establish these standards before these exchanges need to comply.
Right. So, all right. So we have a date in place. Again, it's not sure that the local regulators will begin operating on the FATF guidelines immediately, and some might never.
Right.
I mean, there might be states that decide, all right, it's worth it for us to be more lax and allow these actors to play in our sphere, and guidelines be damned. But interesting to follow going forward. Rachel, super selection of stories, nicely rounding up some of the coverage from this week. Appreciate you being on with us again. And for those of you at home, thank you very much for watching. We're going to be right back with more blockchain and cryptocurrency news.
For more news and updates, follow us on Twitter.